I'm 100% all for these kids getting paid, especially name, image, and likeness. If you can go out there and a company wants to give you money, right, do it. And whether it's these kids, nowadays, the way you can monetize social media, which is going to be an interesting situation because you're going to see some athletes doing some weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you. You're going to be seeing some weird sites.
Things that may cross the line, according to some people.
100%.
Some programs are going to go, whoa, we can't have you doing that wearing our, garb on. No.
Absolutely. But the way that you can monetize, whether it's TikTok these days or YouTube or your own website, I'm all for these kids getting paid. It's going to be interesting to see how the NCAA figures all of that out. I can also see why, even though I'm more new school, the transfer portal, it is out of control. Now, don't get me wrong. I think these kids should be able to transfer. And I think it's very hypocritical when you have these coaches who can immediately leave, especially in football. You can recruit, 30 kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in their living room the day before saying, please come to my school, and you're going to be there for 4 or 5 years. It's not just a 4-year commitment. It's a 40-year commitment. I'm always going to be in your life. And maybe some of those coaches actually are after the fact, even if you move jobs. But the fact that the coach can immediately leave and go somewhere else and the kids can't, I was never a fan of that. I do think, though, whether it's a one-time transfer, I just don't. I know COVID was weird with giving the extra year of eligibility, but it is out of hand right now.
Here's my thought on this, and this would be clear cut. We don't have to worry about, well, there's this scenario and that scenario. If your coach is fired or leaves, you get the transfer immediately. If you, and then you get, as a college athlete, and I'm not going to say student athlete, but as a college athlete, you get one on your terms. You get one transfer. So in theory, you could get two in your 4 to 5 years based on if your coach leaves or gets fired, you can leave anywhere you want, or you get one, we'll call it a redo. And that's it. It's a 4-year process. So if you get 2 possibles out of it, that's more than enough. There is part of me that, and I don't care, they can do whatever they want, make all the money they want off of themselves. I think anyone should be able to do that. I don't have a problem with that. Now, they will, as a athlete, you will have to realize then you have repercussions of, if you do certain things and you break the code of conduct of whatever, the school is you're at, then you run the risk of not getting that opportunity again. That's revoked. I mean, that's part of being an adult. So I want you to be given that opportunity to make money and learn to be a young adult. But there's got to be, the flip side is if you screw it up and you lose it. So, but the transfer thing is you get one for you and one if your coach leaves or quits. I think that's more than fair.
I like that. And that makes sense. I could even extend it to, because they already let players, if you graduate, you can do a grad transfer. You could even give them 3 options. Because if a kid is graduating early, whether it's 3 years, we see some of these kids, I think Fred Thatch, graduating in 3 years. Or if you graduate in 4 years, but you had a red shirt, I'm also okay with that situation, especially if you want to go get a graduate degree somewhere else. Now, we get it. Sometimes it's usually just for basketball, but that's fine too. I 100% agree with the fact that if your coach leaves or is fired, you should be able to transfer. And then if you give them the other one, I mean, I'm now still giving you 3 opportunities. If you have the grad transfer,
3 out of 4 to 5 years, you're more than enough.
That's still more than enough opportunities. Where it's not, though, every single year. Some of these kids go to a different school every single year. And I'm all about the player. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
In any of these debates, I will almost always side with the player over the school. But it'd be hard to look at what's going on with the transfer portal right now and not say, It's just nutso. And I'm not feeling sorry for the coaches that make $3, $4, $5, $7 million a year. But you do now have to recruit year-round, not just high school kids. Whereas back in the day, you're coaching and you're recruiting high school kids. Okay, if you're a big-time program, you're usually not going to the transfer route. This is back in the day. Now everybody is. Even the JUCO route. Now everybody's going that route. So you need to recruit your class of high school kids every year, and then you have to be right in it the second the season ends, and there's 1,000 kids in basketball in the transfer portal. And again, I understand that this time around was different because of COVID, and I'm very glad that the kids, especially if you didn't get that season, and we always focus on the big-time athletes. We focus on basketball, football, Alabama, Ohio State. There's also a lot of kids that just didn't get to play their senior season. I was at Wash U yesterday. Wash U advances to the College World Series in D3 for the first time ever. So awesome. Shout out to Wash U. Number 1 team in the country, by the way.
Ooh.
So it was actually surprising. Right. They're playing Johns Hopkins in a matchup of the smartest baseball field of all time with future doctors that are going to solve all the world's problems here coming up on Friday up in Iowa.
That is awesome.
Right, for the D3 College World Series. But they were saying last year was the first time in school history they were ever ranked number 1 in the country. But COVID knocked out their season. And D3 kids, it's not the same as if you're going to Duke and all that, right?
No, you're
and
right.
Baseball is not the same, especially you're not getting scholarships in D3. But I was talking with one of the players. I said, last year, you have this great team. You have a chance to win the College World Series. You're number 1 in the country. Season is shut down. How many kids came back with the extra eligibility and all that, or are thinking about that now? And he's like, well, this is Wash U. A graduate degree is very, very expensive, which it is. So you understand that is a different conversation. It's a different ball game than if you're getting the full ride scholarships for football, for basketball, and you're transferring a million times.
Yeah, no, that's I'm sure after you asked the question, you went, yeah, okay, I get it now.
And parents, I get it. Like, you want your son or daughter to get that final season, but if that's a $50,000 season, that's a different conversation.
We gotta talk this over, son.
I know you love baseball. Can you play in the beer league, maybe?
Yeah, that's right. This all started with Coach K, and I think that is one of the big reasons. When we started with Coach K, I don't blame the guy for getting out. I can't imagine for a lot of individuals, not just him, but anyone who played college basketball this past year, how bizarre and how difficult and strange it was. And you're like, this isn't worth the squeeze. You know, it really wasn't. And I imagine a lot of the coaches are feeling that way. And to the transfer portal situation, I kind of put in perspective. I heard some thoughts from Brad Underwood, because great season, right? Then they fell flat in the tournament and didn't advance as far as they wanted. Now he's got DeSumo who's leaving. He's got Coburn who's leaving. And it was like, yeah, I get that. But then he finds out his freshman, one of his prize freshmen, said, yeah, I'm transferring too. It's like, whoa, you just go, wait a minute. I recruited you here to be here for 3 or 4 years and build a program, right? Well, as this offseason has gone on, Brad Underwood has said, I've had to change my philosophy on how to build this program. And he said, I got to stay old, meaning, guess what? He's going to have to go through the transfer portal every other year and go, I got to find guys that are experienced. I can't sit here and wait and get young players and go, if I can keep them around for 3 years, boy, that 3rd and 4th year, we're going to be really good. Those days are gone. And I think now Coach K gets a lot of one and dones, but still, I think at his age, he's probably saying, I don't need this anymore. That means I'm going to have to go out every year and just try and restart over and over and over again. And I think, Roy Williams stepped down. I'm sure he had the same feelings. And by the way, both of their programs were down this year.
Right.
So you're like, I don't need this anymore. I would imagine that I had names here. What do I got? Oh, Boeheim is coaching his kid, but at 76, he's going to be done. Jim Larinaga is 70 years old. He's probably going to be saying, I'm done. And Leonard Hamilton, 72. And he just got a new contract this offseason. I can't imagine these guys wanting to stick around dealing with all this stuff that we just spoke of. That just kind of hit me when I knew it was close to time for Coach K, but you're like, yeah, but it's Coach K. He just sticks around. He's been there forever. It's Duke. They get him whatever he wants, and he's fine. But for him to just finally say, yeah, that's enough, I think that's an eye-opening thing about what that industry is going into next. Chaos.
Yeah. And I get it. And maybe he wanted to coach another 1 or 2 years. But you say, you know what? It's just time. Everything's changing. I've been in this game for 40-plus years, whatever it is, as a head coach, and it's time to just kind of move on and do something else. And that's where Coach K, he did change his philosophy. Remember, he wasn't all one and done.
No.
When everybody else was going one and done, and it was a lot of Calipari at Memphis, where he almost won a championship, and he goes to Kentucky, he wins one, but he was the one that was getting all of the one and done recruits. And Coach K was still recruiting your traditional 4-year players, and he wasn't doing all the transfer stuff. Well, then you realize, well, to really compete and win national championships, I got to go this route. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say in the last probably 10 years, I feel like Duke has had as many of the legit one and dones. Maybe not as much as Kentucky, but they're right up there.
Yeah, they're close because it's a lot of, that guy helped us win. He's gone. He's like, he's gone. And I can't remember the kid's name, but he played for Duke this year, and halfway through the year just said, I'm done with this. What's Coach going to say to that? Yeah, I know you're out of here. You're dealing with all the stuff that's going on with this crazy year. And I know a lot of people criticized him, and like I said, I can't remember his name, but they're like, quitting on his team. Well, no, not really. Hey, that thing was a mess this year. Time to move on and go do something else. There's nothing wrong with that from time to time. I can respect, for the right reasons, sticking around and seeing it out, but sometimes you go, this isn't I'm not getting anything out of this. It's time for me to move on.
And everything is changing so much for the athletes. It's never going to be the same. And part of me, I'm very disappointed by that because I love college sports. I love Ohio State football. Now, football is different because you have to stay at least 3 years post high school. So you get to know those guys a little more. But still, somebody might transfer. Justin Fields, a great Buckeye, he was only really there for a year and a half, right? I mean, a full season and the COVID season. But football, you at least get to see most of these guys for 3 seasons. I grew up even watching Ohio State with Jimmy Jackson. He's there 3 years. You had the Fab Five, where the studs, Chris Webber left after 2, but Jalen Rose stayed for 3, and all those great Duke teams, the Leitner, Grant Hill teams, those were 4-year teams. Go back to Jamal Mashburn with Kentucky. I loved watching those teams build. It's one of the reasons, watching SLU, watching a Mizzou team, if you go back to the Kim English team, you got to see that Marcus Denman, Kim English team grow. We've gotten to see, in my time at SLU, 2 very successful teams really grow. If you go back to the Quamaine Mitchell, Jordair Jet team that gets to 3 tournaments, I know there were different guys, but that core, you saw all of them grow. Obviously, you're not getting one and dones usually. I know there's Larry Hughes, but you're not getting one and dones at SLU. And then you got to see this latest team. It's really unfortunate they didn't make the NCAA tournament, but we saw Jordan Goodwin. We saw Hassan French grow. You got to know them as people. You got to know them as players for 4 years, and we're not going to see that probably at all with the big-time programs. And here's the other issue, which affects the SLUs of the world, and as a Bradley grad, it affects the mid-majors. I love watching Bradley play. So if you're a kid now, and you basically are a late bloomer in terms of out of high school, let's say you're a top 300 recruit. You're not a top 100 recruit. So you go somewhere like Bradley. Maybe you go to SLU.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a 180th ranked player, whatever. You go to SLU or Bradley, Missouri State, whatever it is, and you're awesome year 1. You average 17 points a game. Maybe you stay 2 years, and you're really, really good. You blossom, you grow, you mature. All of a sudden, you can play probably at Duke, at Mizzou, wherever it is, Illinois. You're going to see a lot of those kids leave. And that's unfortunate for the mid-majors. I get it for the kids because when you grow up, all due respect, I went to Bradley, but you don't say, oh, I want to play for Bradley, right? It's usually, I want to play for Duke. I want to play for North Carolina. Sure, if you're in state, Mizzou, so I get that here and there, but it's usually Kentucky. And if those kids, after not being recruited by Kentucky as a high schooler, if a year or two in to them playing at Austin Peay, they can now get calls from Coach K if they enter, not Coach K, but Coach Cal now, enter the portal, you know they're going to go for that.
Heck yeah, you would. You go, oh, wait a minute. I can go play Kentucky for a year? Yeah, I'm in. I'm leaving wherever I'm at to do that. It makes for an interesting situation in the next 4 years. I want to see how this whole thing plays out. If we ever get to that point where we see the kids doing their name and likeness and making money off themselves, and then, as you said, hopefully they just need to sit down and come up with the rule, right? Just say this. Like I said, if the rule is what you and I just discussed, then that's the rule. Let's let it play itself out. Let's quit monkeying around with this and that. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it next year. Just get it on and move on with it. You know that's where it's headed. The genie's out of the bottle. Sorry, you can't put it back in. Let's just move on and get to something else.
And I was tiptoeing around this, and it is an interesting topic, but it's true. If you see what's very popular, we're talking about with women's sports, women on TikTok, on Instagram, on other sites that are not even as what's the word? Decent as Instagram and TikTok. You can monetize the way you look wearing
whatever you want.
Not much. Right. Again, this is happening. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
On TikTok, on Instagram, and all that. So my question is, how will the NCAA handle that when you have a woman who plays whatever sport? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's gymnastics, volleyball, whatever. And you have a site that wants to pay her a lot of money to do something that may not be something that the NCAA or that institution wants associated with their program.
Posing for photos.
That's 100% going to happen, by the way. Like, that's going to be an issue.
And that's where I think the clause of decency, whatever you conduct clause, whatever you want to deem it, they'll have to be that part of it. And then as a student athlete, that's where your decision is. How far are you willing to sacrifice everything? Because there's a code of conduct. You know, this is the rule. There's a code of conduct that X institution has said. And you can go ask them, you accept this or not? If they don't, then that's on the student athlete to make that choice. And they deal with the consequences. If the institution says no and you do it, well, then you're out. But you know that going in, because there it is. There's the line. You don't cross that line. So I think that's where it's going to have. That will be the biggest hang up of this whole situation.
Yes, and it's also good, though, for these athletes to have options. They might say, you know what? I love playing my sport. I can actually make a living.
Right.
Whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's YouTube, I can actually make a living. Okay, and then look at other sports options. If you're a basketball player, it's not like even 10 years ago or 15 years ago where you go to college and then you go to the NBA. And it's all based on the rules. If you had to stay for 1 year or for a while there, they obviously dropped that, and you had the LeBrons of the world going right out of high school again. But now, if you're a basketball player, you have legit options with the G League having this program where you're going to get whatever it is, $125,000. I mean, you're going to get a significant amount of money to say, hey, you're probably an NBA player. Instead of going to college basketball, you can play as a pro, get paid pretty decent money, and never go to college. Same with, look, there are options. When these kids say, oh, okay, the college system, it's all skewed towards the coaches and the universities, and it is, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
A whole bunch of jack.
But players can also go overseas. You can go, I understand if you don't want to, but you can go overseas and make nice coin, whether it's Europe, whether it's Australia. I mean, you can make money as a professional player a year out of high school and then go back into the NBA draft, and we've seen that happen a lot recently.
Yep, they're going out to the Far East. They're making money over there. A lot of guys you see, I'll see guys, I forgot about him. He played college. Where'd he go? He went over here to play hoops, and he plays for 5 years and makes a living, gets to see the world. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a bad choice if you're okay and that's what you want to do. So I know there are options, as you pointed out, and the options are always good, and they should be allowed to take advantage of those options.
And another part of this that I think is interesting is there is money to be made, though, down the road for the marketing aspect you get from college basketball. I don't think it's hard to put a value on if you play for Duke and you're on national television every single game. You're on the front cover of ESPN or you're on SportsCenter for every single one of your games. And if you can then spin that into your Nike deal, you can spin that into your Under Armour deal. I understand, okay, China's going to pay me X amount, but let's be real. Nobody's going to follow me when I go play in Beijing.
Right.
Okay, a couple people will, but nobody in the United States, they're not going to see all my games in the NCAA tournament, Duke on my jersey, with the Nike. The second I leave school, I have potentially a $100 million Nike contract, and maybe I'm now worth more because the last year I was marketed by Ohio State, by Duke, by Florida, whatever it is.
And that's going to be up to that athlete to decide, where am I going to get a better value? We hear about parents that get involved in the recruiting process, say, what do you got for my kid? What are you going to do for my kid? And we kind of go, oh, here we go. Well, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, hey, I got Johnny over here who's, a top 10 athlete in whatever sport he is. What are you going to do to promote my kid and help him make money? Oh, we got this. Yeah, but I went over to Ohio State and they said they're going to do this for him. That'll be part of the process. It probably already is for the absolute special athletes. Would it be like that for more and more athletes moving forward?
Right. It's going to be impossible to police. And the Alabamas of the world, the Ohio States of the world, they're going to be able to offer more. Let's be real. They are.
Oh, yeah.
But they already get all the kids anyway.
They do. Look, every school is doing something like that already. You just don't hear about it. And anybody, we don't. No, your school does too. Anybody who's listening to me right now, they're going, my school doesn't. No, every school does it. They have the friends of the program. Every school has it. It's going on. It's just when they get too blatant and obvious that somebody goes, well, caught you red-handed, didn't we? Well, you're going to get reported. Then the NCAA goes, I'll be darned, we didn't know about that. We got to investigate these guys. Then that's how they always get them.
And that's why my philosophy and opinion on this, it's changed and evolved over the years. Because also you just realize you can't police it. Right. Even if you have rules, there are ways to get around the rules. For example, you can give the dad a coaching position.
Uh-huh.
You can give the brother an offensive coordinator position. I mean, we've seen that all the time. Or the mom, whatever it is, she can have a job in the administration.
Yep.
Whatever it is, like you can do those things legally. You're allowed to do that.
Yep.
This is already happening all over the place. Or a booster. Okay, well, I want to go to your school. My mom or dad would like to move there. They need a job. Okay, a booster gets them a job. Right?
Yep.
The kid goes there. This has been going on for years.
And the funny, I laugh because the NCAA never unveils it. It's some investigative reporter who unveils it, and then the NCAA, well, we got to go check this out. We can't have this. I mean, a couple of the kids at Mizzou were basketball players about 5-6 years ago, Jaqueen and Gant and all that. You find out, well, somehow they got intern jobs down in some, business down in Alabama, from some guy who was a booster of the pro. You go, really? I mean, but it's going on like that everywhere in the country. So get on with it and move on.
Times, they are changing.
Yep.